So Shaun, when a person's going to sell their home, there's a lot of documents that the title company requires in
Yes.
order to do their job. Could you kind of like lay it out for us? What should a seller be prepared to provide the title company?
Yes. So, and this is actually a great point for us to be
Mhm.
making because the seller, the information that is needed in every situation
Mhm.
is a social security number
Mhm.
um, and a forwarding address. And I want to speak to this for a little bit because sometimes there's a little pushback, especially in this huge area of all kinds of fraud going on, right?
Mm.
So sellers sometimes give a little pushback, or they want to give that information at settlement, which is totally fine. The reason that the title companies need a social security number is because every title company has to file a 1099 showing the sale price.
Mm.
It's a reporting mechanism for the company as a title company. The liability, as far as the seller, is based on their net proceeds. So it's
Mhm.
not as though we're reporting you sold it for $1 million and that's your liability. We have
Mhm.
to report there's a sale so that the IRS is on notice, so that they can actually ensure that you file your
Mhm.
proceeds.
Mhm.
So those are the two big things: forwarding address, social security number, payoff statement on your mortgage is
Mhm.
always going to be needed,
Mhm.
and also an authorization that's signed. The authorization is signed for two reasons. One, for the payoff to be ordered. Some cases, the lender requires a signed authorization to release
Mhm.
that information. The other is specifically in DC, not in Maryland, but in DC. An authorization is needed to secure a final water bill.
Mhm.
Also, to secure a current water balance. So
Mm.
DC will not release without sign authorization a current water balance or a final bill, which is that bill that transfers the ownership to the new owner.
Mhm.
So those essentially are everything that the seller is going to have to provide outside of there being an issue on title. So
Mhm.
if there's an unreleased trust, which is a deed of trust or mortgage per se, that was paid off in the past, that was never properly released.
Mhm.
Um, an owner's policy typically can cure those items. So if a seller has their back policy, that can be used where the title company would go to that title underwriter who issued the policy
Mhm.
for what's called an indemnity letter to proceed without putting that trust in as an exception to the policy. Any exception in the policy is not going to be a covered event. So you want to have that removed and
Mhm.
not be an exception if you're an owner. So those are rare instances. I mean, on a general basis, you're going to need that social, the forwarding address, the payoff statement, and
The
really
authorization.
an authorization. And
Mhm.
really, that's going to be it as far
Okay.
as a seller. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And how about for what do the buyers need to provide?
Really, the buyer's end is primarily focused on the lender.
Mhm.
The title company role with the buyer is I'd say somewhat limited. It's really more so kind of educating the buyer, holding the buyer's hand through the process
Mhm.
to ensure they understand what the role the title company plays. Because
Mhm.
typically they know the agent, they know the lender, they understand those components. The title company, the earnest money deposit is
Mhm.
typically held by the title company. So that's really the first time the buyer will engage, still not understanding really kind of that process. So really title company's primary goal is to issue the owner's policy to the buyer,
Mhm.
really kind of educate them on that piece.
Mhm.
But a lot of the communication on behalf of the buyer is communicated with the title company and the lender.
Mhm.
And really trying to just explain the title to the buyer, and then the settlement process itself. So really, a lot of the information gathering that we would typically need, contact information, email addresses. We'll either get that from the agent or the lender that'll have that information, so we can start to work on the preliminary CDs and things of that nature. So it's really mostly the seller that gives
Okay.
us the information.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
So the CD closing disclosure. Question: what exactly? Like, break it down very quickly.
Yeah.
What exactly does the settlement company do?
Yeah, so the settle company, for lack of a better word, really just houses, the money
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So it's a conduit for disbursement. So the title company's main objective is to make sure title is passed free and clear. So that new owner purchases a property without any liens or encumbrances against their title,
Mhm.
and make sure the money comes in from the lender, the money goes out to the seller, the brokers, payoffs, and then everything gets recorded properly. So to sum it up, the two main objectives is to issue a comprehensive owner's policy if that's elected.
Owner's title policy, right?
Yep, and a loan policy for the lender, which is a
Mhm.
requirement,
Mhm.
and then record all the documents in the jurisdiction in a timely
Right.
manner. Yeah.
And make sure that the lender, the mortgage holder gets paid off,
Correct.
and then that the transfer and recordation
Recordation.
taxes are paid, so that
Correct.
the county or the district gets paid.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah,
Correct. Everything gets recorded, and
Mhm.
and the original deed gets sent back out to the owner,
Mhm. Right.
and with the policy, preferably, or at
Mhm.
the closing table, the policy is issued in some
Mhm.
cases.
And who selects the title company?
So the buyer, it's the buyer's choice with
Mhm.
title companies,
Mhm.
and that's another point of contention because a lot of times, especially in a multiple offer situation,
Mhm.
sellers will really force the hand, or maybe the listing agent will force the hand,
Mhm.
but it really is the buyer's right to choose their title company.
And who does the title company represent?
Title company actually does not represent either side, and that's
Mhm.
a really great point to bring up
Mhm.
because that's brought up oftentimes in this business, especially if it gets contentious. If
Mhm.
there's a deposit that was made and the buyer's not performing, quote unquote, there's a lot of you need to release the earnest money. Which we cannot unless there's a release signed by
Mhm.
both sides.
Mhm.
Typically, when we bring that up, folks think that the title company is in cahoots with the buyer, which is not
Mhm.
the case. The only
Right.
thing
Yeah.
we represent is clear title,
Mhm.
and we don't represent either side. So we
Mhm.
want to ensure that title is passed free and
Mhm.
clear, and we pay off the mortgages. We issue a policy, and we record all the documents in a jurisdiction. So those are our main and our only objectives to
Excellent.
do. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good deal.